Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Small Town Tourist Podcast, where we experience and explore everything that makes small towns great. I'm your host, Abby, and today we have another repeat guest, another friend of the pod. Troy from the Minnesota Prepper Expo is joining us today to chat all things year 2 for the Prepper Expo. Last year was the first year. If you missed out on that episode, I know it's kind of like a time-sensitive one, but not really. There's a lot of great information that Troy shared in that first episode. He's back again this year to talk about the second year of the Minnesota Prepper Expo. Now, in this episode, you will be hearing us talking about the Wisconsin Prepper Expo as well. At the time of recording, the Wisconsin one was still going to happen, but a couple weeks ago, Troy texted me and said due to some family issues, the Wisconsin Prepper Expo is not happening this year. So if you hear us talking about it, not happening this year, but it will be happening next year. They're making plans to reschedule for next summer. So heads up on that. I got all the links and all the good stuff down in the show notes below. So if you're looking for more information on the Prepper Expo, getting your tickets, all that good stuff, times, dates, locations, whole 9 yards, it's all waiting for you in the show notes. Please enjoy our time hanging out with friend of the podcast. It's Troy from the Minnesota Prepper Expo.
Well, I'm glad you saw the sign out there because I was kind of wondering because that's the one sign I rented. And I went ahead and I bought like 10 of them.
Oh, wow.
But they had to be rebuilt. So I got 2 of them done now and I got to get a bunch more. But yeah, I've got them up on the highway. Well, one up on the highway in 2 Arbors because it was opener weekend. And I'm bringing that down. I don't list them as a sponsor because they're not real family friendly, but they got a great spot for the sign. And it's, I think it's called Pure Pleasure down there on Highway 10.
Yeah, right on Highway 10 there.
They got that big parking lot, and they said I could put it there. And it's hard finding places to put signs.
I mean,
so I'm
if you
taking
can put
that
it
great
on
big
like
one.
the implement side of the road versus that side, but
No, it's got to be there in their parking lot next to close to the sign actually. But a lot of people seen it last year. I had one out there last year, so and didn't seem to cause any problems. But
take all the exposure you can get.
Yes, especially this year. So, like I said, I didn't have a piece of property. I sold a piece of property last year and stuck every dime into the show.
Okay.
And over $40,000 of our own money.
Wow.
And every dime that came in from the show went into the show. And so afterwards, I didn't have any money, but it was a great show. So this year, I don't have another piece of property. So unfortunately, we have doubled the price of the tickets at the gate to $20.
Okay.
Online, they're $20 as well for the adults. And but then they get put in for the drawing for the generator.
Yep.
And buying them in advance. And it helps a lot when people buy tickets in advance because all the money goes right back into the show. Makes for a bigger, better show. But the tickets do include all the classes and the speakers. And they cost me money, a lot of them. Some of them I trade booth space for their speaking and so forth. But a few of them one of them's flying in from Texas, and
wow,
coming in from a couple of them are coming in from Kentucky, and yeah, it's going to be a good show. It's going to be a lot of fun.
How great is it that it went well last year, well enough to do it again this year, and you can just learn so much by doing. So you know what you did last year and what worked well, you can replicate, and what needed improvement and tweaking, you can do that this year with the second go round.
Yep. And like with the websites and so forth, it took money to build the websites. Well, we still have them. So that's all we paid for, except for, we advertise through them and so forth. And that's a continued cost. And, but yeah, this year we added Wisconsin as well.
Oh, wow.
So Wisconsin is 2 weeks after Minnesota. It's in Weyauwega, Wisconsin at the Wapaka County Fairgrounds.
Okay.
So it's like an hour or a half hour this side of Oshkosh, Wisconsin. So it's not real far from Milwaukee and all the bigger towns over there.
That's awesome.
But, yeah, that one's going to be fun too. So I actually have more speakers coming to that one right now than I do with Minnesota, but I don't have as many vendors yet for Wisconsin. So if any vendors want to go to Wisconsin, it's going to be a good show.
Let's get into kind of some stuff that you have going on for the Minnesota one. So you said you got some speakers coming in from different parts of the country. Who's coming to talk this year?
And I should have had my list out here and everything, but I don't. But I've got a gal, JD Cooper coming from Kentucky, and she's a really well-known author. She's done like 23, 24, 25 books. And we've been listening to her books, and they're pretty awesome. And my wife got addicted to them. She hasn't been able to put them down. She's got a huge following, 500,000 followers. and she does a podcast thing, I believe, too. She's coming to both our shows. Gal from Texas, she's called the military midwife, and this is all she does for a living. She goes around to military bases and all over the country, possibly more than that, I think, and teaches childbirth, post-apocalyptic, basically childbirth.
Wow.
How to deliver kids when there's no infrastructure or anything like that, and taking care of young babies and all this stuff. She's got the mannequins and everything else, I believe, from what she told me. And so it's a three and a half hour class she's going to do each day. And
Wow.
for there will be pre-signups, and so we're getting that up on the website right now. But yeah, that's a huge deal. That's pretty cool.
Well, it's something that I personally I've never thought of. I mean, like,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, the world's gonna keep turning in some capacity,
yeah.
and human nature is that we replicate. And
Well,
when there's not a
even
hospital to deliver a
yeah.
baby, what do you do?
Well, when the crap hits the fan, it might not be, it might be a little sudden, some of it.
Right.
And yeah, if we get hit with a large solar eruption, an EMP or whatever, or anything like that, and the
Mm-hmm.
hospitals are all shut down and everything, what are you going to do? And I mean, that's pretty much instant when that happens.
Right.
So yeah, it's going to be a good thing to learn. I've got another nurse. I believe we're putting on CPR classes, certifications and stuff. I've got a guy. We're we've got it most of it worked out, so we're about 90% there and getting him to come up. And he comes over from Wisconsin, I believe, but he teaches how to process chickens start to
Oh,
finish. So I've got a guy raising 100 chickens for me right now. And yeah, you don't have to pay for the class, but you do have to pay for the chicken if you want your own chicken. So $30 for a chicken, and we're getting that set up right now. Matter of fact, it might already be. I haven't checked the website for it, but where you buy your tickets online, you can buy your chicken as well.
well, and that's
So
just such a handy life skill in general. I mean, I grew up
for sure.
with butcher chicken, so I'm pretty
Yeah.
familiar with how to process a
Oh
chicken.
yeah.
But
Same
like
with me.
that's just something that another thing you don't really think of, but a good life skill to have.
Yeah. No, I've got an older gal that said that she didn't want to have she had a freeze dried candy booth last year, and
Okay.
she didn't want to have it this year. And I said, well, why not? We'd love to have you. And she goes, yeah, no, I didn't get to see any of the classes or the speakers because I was busy with the booth. She said, this
Mm,
year I want to see these classes and stuff. I said, oh, so you're still coming? She goes, well, yeah. She's got a huge, fancy motorhome. She showed up with her sister and her mom last year, and so she goes, "Oh yeah, you better make sure you got my spot for my motorhome." I said, well, for sure. It's a rolling Taj Mahal, but and she goes, "Sign me up. I want one of them chickens." I'm like, "Okay, cool."
okay. That's
But
kind of funny that she was a vendor, but she wants to experience it as a guest. Like that, it's just a huge testament to the event that you put on.
well, yeah, and I mean, I didn't get to see any of my own speakers or anything, so I was so busy. I sat in on the one for just a few minutes, and that's Billy Stormfeather, who gives a presentation in the morning and then in the afternoon. The first one is called the first 30 days, what to expect, and then in the afternoons, the next 60 days, basically, kind of how to survive and what to expect.
Okay.
And yeah, Billy's still serving in the military, and he's still part of the things. And he's not a person I'd want real upset with me. If they send his crew after you, you know you really pissed off somebody bad. So he's been all over the world for the last 27 years. He's served in every conflict country on the planet, and yeah, he's a very interesting guy. Then when you get to sit down in the evening and have a beer with him and listen to some of his other stories, it's pretty neat to be able to hang out with somebody like that.
Right, exactly. Just to hear their life experience and
Yeah,
what they've learned, what they've seen, what they've been through. It's incredible.
yeah. Then we have Rory, who was with us last year as well, and he lives off grid with his family. And he packed him in. People loved him, and so he's going to be at both shows as well. Yeah, no, it's going to be a fun time. We got on our website the first 15 zombies gets in free.
I saw that.
So we're expecting some zombies to be hanging out and entertaining the kids a bit and so forth. Yeah, we had a couple of them last year. That was fun.
That is really fun.
Trying to get more fun stuff for the kids. We really try to encourage the younger people to come to our shows. So, I'm 60 years old. I got a 17-year-old daughter, and nothing happens over the next 10 years, great. But 10 years from now, if it does, I'm 70 years old. I want some younger people to help my daughter survive the things that are going on. So
Yeah, it's all about looking to the generation that's coming up behind you and giving them as much information and helping hands as you can to make sure they're as prepared as possible.
yeah, if it wasn't for my kids and grandkids, I'd be taking off and living the dream down in Panama, living on a boat down there. We have friends down there, and you could live like a king down there for under $1,000 a month. And it's just a great country to go be in. Don't listen to what the government says about it. It's a great country to go stay in or live in. Great healthcare and stuff down there. But best scuba diving and fishing in the world, and that's how I planned on living out the rest of my days, basically. But now just seeing what's going on around the world and everything that's happening. My keynote speaker I had last year, Ben Davidson, he's not going to come this year. He's gotten real concerned with this solar activity on the sun,
Okay.
and then the stuff that happened with Boeing. And he doesn't want to be, his family's there in Colorado, and he doesn't want to be that far away from them.
Okay.
And he doesn't feel real comfortable with flying any longer, which I can understand.
Yeah.
So, especially with this last weekend storms and the solar storms we just had.
I was just thinking of that when I was out Friday night taking pictures of the Northern Lights. I was actually like in my head replaying our conversation we had last year about kind of the solar storm stuff. And I'm like, oh, wow, bells are ringing in the old brain.
Yeah, and these are the highest category storms, but yet we didn't have too many of the problems that you would have normally expected with this high of a category storms. But it could have very easily been a different story, very easily.
Hmm.
And so we didn't we stayed pretty close within 20 miles of our house this whole weekend ourselves. And just in case, if it was bad enough, we still got another solar flare or eruption heading our way yet. Hasn't hit yet. So that last one. But no, we went out Friday night, 2 blocks. I'm 2 blocks off of Lake Superior,
Okay.
just north of Duluth. And so we went down to the lake, and the line of cars coming up from the cities and from Duluth and so forth, it was constant, even at 12:30 at night, constant line of cars along the scenic highway there. And so there's a lot of light pollution just from the cars and so forth. So we actually went right up the road here from us. And I do dirt work and stuff during the summer with the skid loader and dump truck, and removed a bunch of boulders from a place up the road here, some farm property. And they live, quite a ways away, the people that own the property. So we went out there in the middle of the field with the deer out there, and sat out there. It was real nice and dark, and took a bunch of pictures. So it was kind of fun.
That is really cool. Yeah. And get away from the out of towners coming up to pollute with
Yeah.
their lights.
Yeah. It was almost like the smelt run the way it used to be years ago coming up. It was just, people hooping it up and everything, and going down to the lake, and down by the beach there and so forth. And I said, man, now would be a great time to go for a skinny dip. My wife says, I ain't going down there. But
Oh.
I'm sure none of these people would care. It'd be fun, but water's a little cold.
Yeah. It's always cold in Lake Superior.
Yeah, yeah, it really doesn't warm up too much. So,
So, for everyone who maybe didn't tune into the episode that we did last year, give kind of a rundown on the solar side of things for people
oh,
to understand.
okay. As far as that goes, about 26, 27, 28 years ago, something like that, our magnetic poles started shifting. They started moving. NASA first predicted a peak out in 2050. They now moved it up to 2030s, early 2040s, because of how much it's sped up the process of the magnetic pole reversal. And along with that, the shield that protects our planet has decreased now over 30%. So uh, now the flaring that we saw, the northern lights, reached as far south as Puerto Rico and Mexico. Last time that happened was 102 years ago, but that was much stronger solar storms 102 years ago than what we've just had. But with our shield as weak as it is, it's allowing those light particles to penetrate deeper in. That's why we've seen them with the storms we just had, much smaller storms. But that's a very, very bad sign as well. So they've talked about this for a long time, that we had the solar flaring, coronal mass eruption back in 1859, called the Carrington event. Well, they're saying today that a storm less than half the strength of that one is more than enough to shut everything off, and we're way overdue for it. So, yeah, that's one of my main reasons for prepping, is all because of that. If you start prepping for the things that are happening between the sun and the earth right now, that covers everything else. World War
Hmm.
III, whatever, as bad as those things are and can be, you're pretty much covering all your bases. So
Right.
yeah, I've got a large freeze dryer and I don't shut that thing off. It runs constant and producing as much freeze dried food as we possibly can. And shout out to Harvest Right, even though I try to get them to come to our show again this year, and they're so busy. They're producing so many of them freeze dryers, and they're taking so many orders online that they don't need to go do shows like mine or anything. So they're pretty busy. But yeah, that's a big part of it. And then there's another part of it that I'm not even going to talk about because it's even worse than just being taken up by solar flares. And we're coming into that as well within a very short time. NASA was saying that well, the more I say it, the more I get into it. There's a 12,000 year cycle that we're coming into a peak of. This
Hmm.
magnetic reversal is the peak of a 6,000 year cycle, and there's 1,500 years magnetic reversals and 3,000 year ones, but the 6,000 year cycles are particularly the bad ones as far as magnetic pole reversals. And now the 12,000 year cycle is even worse, and that's supposed to peak by they were saying around 2050. They're now saying by 2050, if not
Ooh.
sooner than that. They say within a year or two of the magnetic pole reversal peaking out, no more than 10 years. And this is basically, and I may lose a few people on this because they may get upset about it or whatever, but this is where they believe the Earth is going to suddenly rotate 90 degrees.
Oof.
The new equator will run through the middle of Alaska and Iceland. This happens over hours, not over months or years. It happens in hours. And they've now confirmed this pretty much. It's going to be huge bursts of energy. It takes a huge burst of energy to suddenly cause the Earth to rotate like that. And Einstein even knew about the Earth rotating 90 degrees. And he went to his grave trying to figure out where this burst of energy came from. But he's looking at internally instead of externally, like at supervolcanoes and things like this.
Hmm.
They now know for pretty much fact it's going to come in the form of a micronova from the sun. We're looking at 99% loss of life on the planet when this happens. That's plants, animals, everything. Things bounce back fairly quickly. Things settle out. The Earth rebuilds fairly very quickly, but and it is survivable. Humans have survived it a number of times in the past. So Jeff Bezos, his rocket launch pad, I've been there. He's building a huge underground city, basically in the base of the mountains there. He's less than 60 miles from Carlsbad Caverns, which is considered one of the 5 safest places on the planet when all this stuff occurs. NASA and OSHA, these other scientists, have mapped out a safe zone, which is from the border of Mexico to the lower half of Wyoming. It's only
Okay.
about a 175-mile wide strip. Colorado Springs is the center of it, and that's why Ben Davison moved his family out there, some years ago. Otherwise, he would have never moved to Denver, or he's not in Denver. He'll shoot me if he heard say
Not in Denver.
Denver. No, yeah, he opens up a lot of his podcasts and stuff. First thing they say, Denver sucks. And just end of story. That's all we're going to say about it. Denver sucks. I live in Colorado Springs, but anyhow, Colorado Springs is nicer and prettier, but it's still pretty crowded.
Yeah.
Yeah. And part of the reason why oh yeah, I forgot to add, we're doing Minnesota, Wisconsin. Next year we're doing Colorado as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the reason, and we were gonna do it this year as well, because Ben, when he saw our show, when he came and gave that presentation, I gave him a couple of days and I called him and said, "So what'd you think of our show?" And he said, "Oh man, this was cool." He said, "But you got to think bigger. You got to think, you got to add on to this more places." I said, "Yeah, we're going to add Wisconsin on next year." And he goes, "No." He said, "Colorado." He bought, he's got land he bought south of Colorado Springs, and he built a 5,000 square foot uh, educational center on one half of it, along with about 40 unit campground.
Oh, wow.
And he wanted me to bring the whole show to his property down there. So I went down there here just 2.5 months ago, I'm guessing, and we went and checked out the property and everything. And unfortunately, it's just not enough indoor space for the
Mm,
vendors and everything. And because we need at least 20,000 square feet, 15, 20,000 square feet, and it's just too windy to have it outside there.
right.
So shortly after we get done with our shows here in Minnesota and Wisconsin, I'm going to be heading back out there again and trying to lock in a location out there. We've already got the domain name and the logos and stuff like that made up. And so we're looking at possibly a race track out there that's pretty well
Oh,
set up
yeah.
for doing this. And so we got to get that locked in. But we will be out there next year. We're talking probably September, August, September,
Okay.
more than likely September next year. And I've already got a lot of vendors that want to come to that show. So that one's going to be real easy to get jump started. So, but that was the reason why, is because Ben wanted us to come out there. And
Well,
he just crossed over 750,000 followers on his YouTube channel.
wow.
Every morning he gives a weather report on the sun and its interaction with the earth. So if you go to his website, suspiciousobservers.org, and if you want, find his disaster playlist if you really want to get the bejesus scared out of you. And but it's all science. There's
Right,
no
exactly. It's
conspiracy.
scary science.
There's no conspiracy stuff with this at all. It's all science. That James
Hmm.
Webb telescope that they've had up there running now, I didn't think it was that long, but it's been up there for about 2 years now.
Oh my
The
gosh, it's
stuff,
been 2 years? That's crazy.
yeah, the stuff it's learning, they're learning with it though every day is just it's staggering. And they're
Right.
not talking much about it though.
No, you don't hear a whole lot about it unless you end up on a really specific side of TikTok.
Yes, yeah. So, but go there, check that out, and then go to his YouTube channel. And I watch his weather report every morning like clockwork. And oh, I've got a phone call coming in. It's Chris. He ran the Be Prepared Expo last year in Utah,
Okay.
and, just outside of Salt Lake City, Utah. He's coming to both our shows.
Oh,
He's not
fun.
doing he's not doing a show in Utah this year because they had to change venues because they're remodeling the buildings and all that stuff where he's at.
Mm.
And so he's going to have a booth at our shows, and he's got these walking sticks that's got a built-in drinking filter and pump on it.
What?
Really cool. Walking
A
sticks
walking
for
stick
hiking
with that's
with
crazy.
one of them. Yeah, you pull the cover off the end, and you can stick, so it's about 4 foot long, so you can stick it into the creek there, and you pump the handle, and you can hook a different hose onto it if you want, and different things. It's slicker than heck
Well,
but it's good for, I forgot how many gallons of water, but it's a lot.
that's
And
so handy.
yeah, and and he's got a number of different things like that too. So, and he's introduced us to the gold back currency, if you've heard of that at
Yep.
all. So we're gonna have, for sure, over in Wisconsin, they're gonna be there. I think Sunday is the only day, but because they're so booked up with doing different things, but they really wanted to be at both my shows. I think they're still trying to make it to Minnesota to display the gold back currency, which is really neat.
Hmm.
It's actual currency made with gold in it. And you got an app on your phone. You can look at the app and it'll tell you exactly what the gold is rated at that point. And so you can carry it in your billfold. And instead of keeping gold bars stored away or whatever, this is actual currency that you can take to uh, most grocery stores and stuff. A lot of them, you just explain to them what it is and say, here's the value of it. Like right now, the $1 gold back is worth like $4.50, I think,
Oh,
right now.
wow.
And so you can hand it to the grocery store guy, and he'll give you back your change for whatever the value is of the dollar and stuff. So it's actual currency that you can just take in and use at a lot of places. So, but we will next year have a real large deal with that,
Okay.
and we'll be accepting gold backs as far as purchases and stuff like that at a lot of the booths next year. So it's pretty cool.
That is really cool. Fun development for sure.
Mm-hmm. Anyhow, lots of stuff going on.
So much stuff going on. It's so cool to, like I said earlier, just where you started at last year with this to now expanding and then thinking about other states and going to Colorado. And maybe if your friend in Utah wants you to go to Utah, like you could just kind of like take over, which I think is just so fun.
And the one in Kentucky, the gal's coming from, I am so sorry, I don't have her information sitting right in front of me, but she puts on a show out there. Over 3,000 people every year. It's 3 days camping and stuff out there. And she's on the western side of Kentucky, up in the mountains, up in the hills there. She's got her own, they've got a big prepping store where they got food and equipment and everything else, and that they run year round. Her name is Terry. She's a stick of dynamite. She's coming to Minnesota for our show, and she's going to have a big setup, build your own bug out bags,
Oh,
and kind
fun.
of like a smorgasbord of equipment and everything, MRE meals and all kinds of stuff. We've got a different military surplus guy coming. He's huge. He's bigger than one of the ones that we had last year. Plus another one that we had last year, Kenny. He's going to be at our show again. So we're going to have a lot of military surplus stuff in Minnesota. But yeah, we're adding more stuff on all the time, pretty much, and trying to keep the website updated. Matter of fact, he just did a big update, and I haven't even checked it out yet.
I'm
So,
on it right now and it looks fantastic.
well, good.
No, you guys got a great website. You got a great presence. I love like the educational aspect of it, the different people from all over the country you bring into central Minnesota to allow people to experience these resources that they wouldn't get anywhere else. Like your network is so vast, and I love that you're letting other people into the network to learn and educate themselves and to do with the information what they will.
Yeah, well, thanks. I appreciate that. So, yeah, no, it's just I got a message here the other day from NPR
Okay.
from Iowa. They want to do an interview. So yeah, the word's spreading and everything. So it's pretty cool. So even there's another show that gets put on in Denver, and big indoor show, and the gal's been doing that for years. Get a little personal. My mom just passed away 2 weeks ago today.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
And no, I appreciate that, but it's kind of a big relief now that it's passed. But dealing with hospice and all these things, just a lot of stress, and so it really kind of took the wind out of my sails over the last couple months. So I'm really having to try to play catch up here with stuff. And but yeah, the gal out in with the show out there in Denver even heard about the situation, and told my one speaker that's coming, the military midwife, and was saying, "Yeah, I hear he's going through some tough times a little bit here, so we're going to try to help him out and try to spread the word as well,
Oh,
and support him." So that's really cool. Just love the amount of love that's come in from everything from all this, but and how much other people have stepped up to help out. So, but yeah, no, it's going to be a good show, and also I'm really looking for food vendors. We need one more good food vendor for the Minnesota show,
okay.
and we got nothing at the moment. We thought we had the kitchen over there, and it turns out we don't have that at the fairgrounds. And so we're looking for food for Wisconsin. But
Okay.
so if anybody wants, they can give me a call and go to the website and so forth. But I can give my phone number
Yeah.
if,
Yep.
if
Go
you
for it.
mind. 612-275-4492. And I pretty much sleep with the phone. So day or night, try to be nice. My wife works nights sometimes. So,
Don't
but
call at midnight, but call soon. Get if you have a
yeah,
food
yep,
truck and or if you have any sort of
sure.
catering business, like this would be
Yep,
the place to be. You have a
yeah,
it's not like last year where you're going in with the first year and you don't know what to expect. Like you're going to get crowds out there. You know there's going to be
yep.
hungry people
Yeah,
that
we
need good
had over
food.
1,000 people last year. We're expecting 2 to 3,000 this year for Minnesota, and if we get 1,000 for Wisconsin or more, it'd be fun. It'll be a good show either way. So, but yeah, and any other vendors. I just had a guy call me this morning. He's got antique tools, hand drills, instead of electric drills and
Right,
stuff,
yeah.
different things. And he's had a huge collection. He's a little older gentleman, it sounds like, and he wants to downsize his collection. He said, "Would this be a good place to bring it?" I said, "Yeah, we'll take it."
Uh-huh.
And he's got another interesting idea. He's taken battery powered, especially the 12-volt battery tools,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of buying the batteries for him, because the tool still works good and everything, it's just the batteries died, and the batteries cost so much money.
Yeah.
He's hooking a wire to him and a pair of little jumper cables to hook onto your car battery. How
Oh my
simple is
gosh.
that?
I would have never even thought of that.
Yeah, I didn't either. And he says, and so it's just a way to fix your old tools and still keep on using them. I
Right.
said, "Man, I love that kind of ingenuity." Yeah, he said, "I want you at the show." He said, tell me how much space you want and so forth." So he's going to be calling back. But
Cool.
oh yeah, and Rory this year, he's going to try to bring his goat and teach people how to milk a goat too. So that's pretty
Oh,
neat.
fun.
Yeah, just a lot of different things. Quite a few authors are coming and basically do book signings and stuff like that, and to talk about their stories and what's going on.
I
Yeah,
love
like I
the
said,
variety that you bring to these events. Like there's literally something for everyone. Like
yeah, well, that's the idea. So, and people have big ideas on how to survive and what to do, and a lot of it's just simple stuff that you just like this guy with the
exactly.
jumper cables and your power tools.
It's just
I never thought
unlocking
of that.
those simpler ways of thinking. Like as humans, we just overcomplicate everything because it's just what we do. But when we can just boil it down to the basics and have someone to flip that light switch in your brain, it really it makes a difference.
I've got one that's doing water bath canning. I think she's putting on a class in Wisconsin.
Okay.
after that. So we're trying to get as much food stuff as possible, but yeah, part of it's that time of the year when everybody's working in the gardens and everything, so it's hard to
Mm-hmm.
get them out of there to come talk. So,
Yeah.
so but homesteading things like that. But and Rory's got the off grid living thing pretty down pat. It's pretty neat. So
Yeah.
he's an interesting character. So last year he was barefoot, no shirt, torn up BDU pants, dreads out to here, and people just love him. He's a great speaker. He's a lot of fun, and they followed him out and sat out there for an hour talking with him afterwards and stuff. A lot of
That's cool.
and that's a big thing with our shows too. On my speakers, I give them each their own booth space so they can have one-on-one time with people as well. And so in between their presentations, there's still plenty of time to talk to them and pick their brains. So,
Yeah, and
but
that's a huge thing. Like I can count on two hands the amount of times I've gone to see presentations and speeches, and I'd have follow-up questions, but there was no way to connect with the person after they gave their speech to the whole crowd. So I love that you're giving people that opportunity.
yep, that's one of the best parts of the show, if you ask me. So, but and then the camping's awesome. The bonfire talks in the middle of the night and so forth. It's a lot of fun. Unfortunately, last year, uh, Saturday evening, I had a great band come and play, and they wanted to be our house band, and I said, "Yeah, sure," but only a dozen people went over and sat and listened, watched them play.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody was at the bonfire, and I said, "Hey, don't you guys want to go sit and check out the band?" No, we can hear them. They're good. We want to sit and talk. I said, "Wow, okay." And the band was great. And I said, "Okay, same time next year." I said, "Yeah, okay, for sure." So I called them up and they said, "Yeah, no, we already booked Saturday night. We can play
Oh,
Friday night." I said, "No, forget it." So, and I think we're just going to have a radio going or something
yep.
like that. May have somebody playing guitar or something like we did last year. The lead guitar player for that band walked around Friday and Sunday wearing a zombie costume playing
Oh,
at the
fun.
stuff. Yeah, so
Well, and
nice.
it's such a great opportunity to build community with like-minded people who are on the same life path as you. And like you don't always like these people might be living next door to you or they might not be. So the chance to bring everyone together for a weekend, to make those connections, to build that community, it's priceless.
Yep. And the thing is too, is everybody, and people like myself anyways, we all have that one aha moment. And we went out to the oil field in Williston, North Dakota, some years ago at the beginning of this last oil boom that was going on. And we had a snowstorm out there, and I told you about that story last year, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it was May or April 29th, and it was raining, and we had a cold front come through, and the temperature dropped to just below 32 degrees. We had 50-mile-an-hour sustained winds and 70-mile-an-hour gusts, though. And that wet snow took down all the power lines and everything. By 7 o'clock the following evening, like 24 hours later, we had 7 8 foot drifts off the house. I could have mowed the grass the day before, and 4 feet of snow on the level. Well, we had so many guys that were from Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, places like that, up there working that had never seen weather like that before. And with the power out and everything, they panicked. 4 days later, when we were able to get out on the roads a little bit, I went to the grocery stores just to see for myself. And Williston had two big grocery stores, and they had Super Walmart with the groceries there. And they didn't break into that one, but they broke into the other two grocery stores. They broke the windows out and so forth. Went in and they cleared the shelves off of bottled water, canned goods, batteries. You couldn't find a battery in those stores.
That's
I said I
crazy.
went in 4 days later when I heard this. We were out of eggs, so I used that for an excuse. And my wife's like, "I don't need you. You don't need to go into town." I said, "No, I'm going to go and check this out."
I'm just curious
I
about what's going on.
just, yeah, I was shocked, absolutely shocked. Growing up in Minnesota, big snowstorm, power is out for a few days, big deal.
Yeah, that happens a few times a year.
Yeah, so, but you literally, there wasn't any batteries, no bottled water, and I mean, the shelves were cleared of a lot of that stuff. And I just couldn't believe it. I went home. We were renting a brand new 16 by 80 trailer house, and we had the little hallway coat closet, wasn't much in there. I emptied it out and I started stocking it up and started reading up. That was my big aha moment. Just seeing how people reacted over something that simple. It was a week later, I found my lawnmower sticking out of the snow and pulled it out, and it started on the first pole, which I was kind of shocked. And I mowed the grass around the snow drifts a little bit just to say that I did it. But yeah, all the meat and so forth from the grocery stores, they donated it, a lot of it. the local hospital there, they set up a drive-through. They had a whole bunch of barbecue grills, and they're grilling hamburgers and hot dogs, and it was free lunches. So you can give them a donation if you wanted to, but you got a can of Coke and a hot dog and a bag of chips or a burger and so forth. And yeah, that drive-through lasted for a few days like that,
That's
because
crazy.
everything else was closed down. So
Right.
that was pretty cool. A bunch of volunteers got out there and did that. So that was kind of neat seeing the community pull together that way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in the grocery store, they had the refrigerator section all taped off with yellow tape, and so I just ducked under it and went over and grabbed a few dozen eggs and got up to the countertop, and this young girl says, "Oh, I'm sorry, but we can't sell those." I said, "What are you gonna do? Throw them away?" She says, "Yeah, yeah, probably." I said, "Well, then I'm either gonna pay for them or I'm gonna take them. But either
Right.
way, these eggs are good for a few weeks. They don't have to be refrigerated like that all the time."
No, over in Europe, they don't refrigerate their eggs at all.
Yeah. So, and people who live, I follow people that live on their boats. That was always a dream, is to go live on a boat. And I served in the Coast Guard and stuff. And yeah, especially if you leave the coating, if you don't wash the eggs, they're good for weeks and weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and just sitting out. But yeah, so that was my aha moment. And then with my daughter growing up here and so forth, figured we better get a little more serious about things. And my shows are all about bringing people together. I want them to connect with each other and learn to work together instead of going after each other when things get bad.
Right.
Because, like I said, these guys were duking it out, fighting at the grocery stores there. I had a couple of semi trucks, and one of my drivers was parked at the truck stop there, and they opened it up for cash only. And he caught a young guy filling his pockets up and everything, and he went to walk out of there. My driver, who was uh, 10 years in the Marines and so forth, he grabbed the kid by the collar and drug him back into the doorway and said, "You're either paying for that stuff or you're emptying out your pockets right now." Said, "You never seen somebody empty their pockets out so fast." And, there's a line of guys there, and they're kick his ass, kick his ass. But he didn't. But that guy was thought he was going to happen. But
I'm sure he learned a valuable lesson that day.
I would hope so. So, but yeah, it's just something that simple. It's not that big of a deal, but it can turn into a real big deal real quick.
Mm-hmm.
But
And the more we know
and
how to work together and lean on each other for resources and skills, the better.
here's a fun one, if you don't mind me mentioning. My daughter, I beat into her head since she was born that I was picking out her husband for her. And she's not allowed to date even unless it's somebody that I okay and everything. And so and I got to thinking, now that she's getting a little older, where am I going to find like-minded guys that I want her to date or whatever? And so we're in the car, and I said, "Hey, why don't you do me a favor? Look up on your phone there, uh, prepper dating sites." And she found 4 of them right away.
No way.
Yeah. So, but 2 of them, you couldn't even see what the site was like unless you joined it. So I joined it pretending to be a 20-year-old, 25-year-old. And all 4 of them sucked. They're horrible. They were so vague and everything else. They weren't set up very well at all. I thought, man, we could do way better than that. So I actually did a little research, and I bought the domain name prepperpartners.com. And
Prepperpartners.com.
it's going to take a little money to do this. I'm looking for some sponsors, actually, if anybody wants to join in with it. And we're just swamped with this stuff right now. I was hoping to get this done before our shows, but it's going to be next year's project basically. And so it's going to. My idea is to have different levels, because there's different levels of preppers. You have
Right.
your
Yep.
ones that have a couple weeks worth of groceries put away, and you got people that have a couple years worth of groceries put away.
Yeah.
And so you can remain anonymous, but there may be a kind of a questionnaire,
Mm-hmm.
pretty long questionnaire.
Yeah.
Giving like a point system. If you got 6 weeks worth of groceries, you get so many points. If you got 6 months worth of groceries, you get so many points.
Yeah.
Different things like that. If you have kids under the age of 15 or whatever that don't know how to shoot, not got to take away some points. If they know how to shoot, bonus points, and
Yeah.
different things like that, and different skill levels and stuff. And we'll get Red Lobster, different restaurants like that to help sponsor it.
Yeah.
And we're going to have something. We're going to have a dating booth, a singles booth at our shows for single preppers that are looking for other single preppers, and do stuff like maybe the dating game and
Yeah.
give out prizes. The winning couple wins a dinner at Red Lobster or wherever. just
Yeah.
do some things like that with it. So that's going to be fun. I'm pretty excited about getting that up and going.
Yeah, once you get that up and going, I mean, I would start pitching it to TV networks. I think that would make a great dating show.
Oh yeah, never
It's
even
like
thought
the
of that.
Prepper Bachelor. I'd be all over that kind of thing. I love The
Well,
Bachelor.
a year or so ago, they said that the whole prepping community is now over $1 billion industry here in the U.S. alone. So it's a big deal, and it's getting to be a much, much bigger deal, especially with everything that's happening
Hmm.
right now with Ukraine and Israel and all this stuff. And I feel so bad for all those people that are going through all that. And it just makes you angry knowing that with the technologies and the abundance that we have in the planet today, why can't we just all get along? It's
Right?
just ridiculous. It is so ridiculous.
It
But
is. But
anyways,
well, this
my
has
heart goes
been
out to
so fun. Unfortunately, I do got to cut it short just because I have another thing coming up here in about 10 minutes. But just a couple last minute things. My main question I love to ask people when they're hosting events, what do you think is the one thing that if someone is attending the show, either in Minnesota or Wisconsin or both, what's the one thing they cannot miss when they show up?
just open yourself up to talking with other people, meeting other people. That is the biggest thing that I want people to get out of this is just to meet other people and make connections with them. Yeah, and to learn as much as you can about all the things that a person should be aware of and getting your mind right. Ben Davidson, head of Suspicious Observers, that's one of the things he's been preaching more about. Actually, is your most important prep is your brain and getting your mind right and so forth. Like it says, are you going to be the guy that freezes up while people are having bad things happen to them, or are you going to be the person that takes charge and leads them to safety or whatever? So that's that, and just to have fun. You learn a lot more when you're having fun than because prepping could be kind of a depressing subject, and so you got to make it as fun as possible. I just want people to enjoy themselves and learn and meet lots of other like-minded people. So, but
And come
yeah,
dressed
thank
as
you.
a zombie.
Yeah, but, so thank you so much for having me on this again. I really enjoy it. So it's fun talking with you.
Yeah, thanks
So,
for reaching out and let's do it again next year too.
yep. My phone number and email address and so forth, if you don't mind,
Yep,
is
give it all out.
the phone number is 612-275-4492. My email is trtoy@yahoo.com. I was single for a long time. I'm only 5'6", and when I had a girlfriend set up the email address, the girls used to call me the little Troy toy. I've been married for, well, Wednesday it'll be 18 years.
Oh,
So,
congratulations.
but you're not going to get a 5-digit email address again today. So I've kept it all these years. But feel free to contact me any way you want, and look forward to talking to more people that are interested in this. And I just love networking. It's so much fun. So, and then getting to be at the shows. We can use more volunteers, and I've got volunteers. Please go to my website and print out flyers and hang them up for me. I love it when people do that. It's helps a lot with spreading the word. And any preppers that are listening to this right now, if you're part of other groups, please spread the word to your groups and stuff. It really helps out. So, and thanks again for having me on. I really enjoy this.
It's always a pleasure. I love talking to you.
All right. Well, hope to see you at the show. Come up and say hello.
Thank you so much for checking out another episode of the Small Town Tourist Podcast. Of course, you can find all the information for the Minnesota Prepper Expo in the show notes below. If you're looking for more content from the Small Town Tourist, be sure to follow me on Instagram at the Small Town Tourist. Check out the blog, thesmalltowntourist.com. And if you got suggestions for cool things that I should check out in your neck of the woods, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can get my contact information down in the show notes.